The Broken. The Reforged. This is Xaku, the Amalgam Warframe. Xaku is an amalgamation of 3 lost Warframes, conjoined together in the void. As such, his kit is very odd, but kinda works. It's very thematic is what I'll say, and you can make your own decisions. Xaku's passive gives them a 25% chance to avoid direct damage, and reduces AoE damage by 25%. For a passive, it's pretty decent. Having a fourth of enemy attacks just not affect you is always very nice to have. Xata's Whisper gives all of Xaku's weapons enhanced void damage, and an additional hit. Allies within range will also gain the benefits of Xata's Whisper, gaining increased damage to their weapons as well. One thing to take note of is enemies that take void status effects will have a small bubble around them form, causing shots fired at them to hit that spot affected by the status effect, which can be good or bad, as it does prevent you from getting headshots if the status effect was applied to an area that is not a critical hit area. Grasp of Loke turns the enemy's weapons against themselves. Xaku steals enemy weapons that hover on their left and rapidly fire void damage at the very enemies they used to belong to. The void damage from the stolen weapons scales with enemy level, however it does not benefit from Xata's Whisper. It's a fairly good ability for hindering enemies, as they will be forced into melee. It's also rather fun to essentially just have a ton of weapons floating around you like a freaking Jedi, firing off in all directions. The Lost is an ability with 3 different effects that you can cycle through by tapping the ability button. To activate the ability's effect, hold down the ability button. Accuse uses the void to affect targets' minds within an area, turning them against their allies, and turning them into your allies. These targets can still be harmed by weapons, but are not targeted by weapons stolen from Grasp of Loke. It can be useful for creating chaos among enemies, and one of my favorite of Xaku's abilities. Gaze wraps a target in tendrils of void energy. This enemy becomes invulnerable, is held in place, and is unable to act while creating a zone around it. This zone reduces damage taken by allies, and lowers enemies' shields and armor for the duration. The target affected by Gaze stores up damage, which it receives after the effect is ended. Casting the ability again and takes a new target, or recast on the same enemy to deactivate the ability. Deny fires out a beam of energy from Xaku's hand, dealing void energy and suspending enemies struck in the air. This ability is one of my less used ones with Xaku. It has its uses, but compared to their other abilities, I think you're going to be using it probably the least out of any other ones. Though that is entirely up to your playstyle. This ability can be fired multiple times, however, suspending multiple groups of enemies in the air. However, the reason I say it's not as useful is as a third ability, its energy cost is a lot higher than other spammable abilities. Overall, the Lost is a fairly useful ability, and I like that its effects are based off the 3 missing Warframes, giving us a little glimpse into what they might have been like. Shedding their shell, the vast Untime turns Xaku into a
spooky, scary skeleton.
While in skeletal form, Xaku moves faster, slows nearby enemies, gains increased dodge chance, and pauses all of their ability durations. Meaning that while the Vast Untime is active, all of Xaku's other abilities are effectively permanent. Enemies nearby Xaku upon initial cast will take a large amount of void damage. Xaku can activate the ability again to explode once more, damaging nearby enemies and resetting its duration. If you wish to end the Vast Untime, simply hold the ability button to cancel it. Also, a slight tip: if you want your fashion to still appear on your Warframe, go to Auxiliary and Attachments and choose the option Corporeal. As otherwise, Xaku will simply appear as their skeleton regardless of any attachments you have on them. It doesn't affect gameplay, but it can help you with your customization stuff. At rank 30, Xaku has 359 HP, 329 shields, 146 armor, and 230 energy. They have a Naramon aura slot, and 2 Vazarin polarities. Xaku Prime has an additional 24 shields, 21 armor, 21 energy, and an extra Madurai polarity. Xaku's main blueprint is acquired upon the completion of the quest The Heart of Deimos, with their other parts blueprints available from Deimos bounties. Their neuroptics from levels 15 to 25, systems from levels 30 to 40, and chassis from levels 40 to 60. Now let's see them in action one last time. When your enemies stare into the void, Tenno, you stare back.